The 12-year-old boy ran through the freezing snow. He clutched a terrified golden retriever puppy to his chest. He grabbed the old woman's heavy wool coat. "Please," he begged. He looked back over his shoulder. Two heavy-set men coming quickly through the park path. He say, "Pretend it's your dog."
But who she is? Eleanor Vance lived alone. She was 70 years old. She resided in a massive, dark Victorian house on Beacon Hill in Boston. The brick was black with age. The iron gate was always locked. For 40 years, she sat on the federal bench. She wore a heavy black robe. She held a solid oak gavel. She sentenced cartel enforcers, corrupt port officials, and violent racketeers. She was a hard woman. She did not trust people. People lied. People made excuses. Eleanor trusted the law. She trusted cold, hard facts. She pushed her family away years ago. She preferred the silence of her empty house. It was a Tuesday in late January. The temperature was 10 degrees. Eleanor took her daily walk through the Boston Common. She wore a thick charcoal overcoat. She walked with a silver-tipped cane. She did not need the cane for balance. She carried it for weight. That was when the boy crashed into her. His name was Leo Bennett. He wore a thin, torn denim jacket. His sneakers were soaked through with freezing slush. He was shivering violently. He held the squirming golden retriever puppy tight against his ribs. Eleanor looked down at the boy. Then she looked up the paved path. Two men were approaching. They wore heavy brown Carhartt work jackets. Their boots crunched loudly on the ice. The taller man was Marcus Thorne. He had a thick scar across his jaw. The other man was Jimmy Corcoran. His hands were covered in crude, faded prison tattoos. Marcus Thorne stopped 3 feet from Eleanor. He blew hot breath into the freezing air. He pointed a thick finger at Leo. "The kid stole my dog," Marcus said. His voice was gravel and cheap cigarettes. "Hand it over, lady. Walk away." Leo pressed his face into Eleanor's coat. "They're going to kill him," the boy whispered. "They use the little ones for bait." Eleanor Vance did not flinch. She did not step back. She planted the rubber tip of her heavy cane firmly into the ice. She looked Marcus Thorne dead in the eye. "This is my dog," Eleanor said. Her voice was not loud. It was the exact icy tone she used to silence federal prosecutors. Jimmy Corcoran stepped forward. He reached into his coat pocket. "Listen, old lady, you don't want this kind of trouble." Eleanor did not blink. "You are currently standing on federal property," she stated. "Threatening a civilian with implied violence carries a minimum sentence of 5 years under 18 U.S. Code Section 11L. If you take one more step toward this child, I will have the United States Marshals hunt you down like a stray animal. Turn around. Walk away." Marcus Thorne hesitated. He looked at the old woman's cold, dead stare. He looked at the silver-tipped cane. He looked at her expensive wool coat. He realized this was not a scared grandmother. This was someone with power. Marcus spat on the ice. He grabbed Jimmy's shoulder. They turned around and walked back into the falling snow. Eleanor did not wait. She put her hand on Leo Bennett's shoulder. She marched him out of the park. They walked to the brick house on Beacon Hill. Eleanor unlocked the heavy oak front door. The brass deadbolt clicked loud in the quiet hallway. She locked the door behind them. She took the boy's wet jacket. She built a fire in the marble fireplace. She boiled water. She handed Leo a heavy ceramic mug of black tea. The golden retriever puppy curled up on an expensive Persian rug. It fell asleep instantly. Leo wrapped his shaking hands around the hot mug. He was in the state foster system. He lived in a group home in South Boston.
He ran away 2 days ago. He was sleeping in an abandoned warehouse near the shipyard. That morning, he heard dogs barking. He found Marcus Thorne's compound hidden behind a rusted corrugated steel fence. Leo described what he saw. He did not use big words. He used the blunt truth. He saw heavy-gauge logging chains bolted to concrete walls. He saw spring poles hanging from steel rafters. He saw fighting pit bulls covered in fresh scars. And he saw a wire cage full of stolen family pets. Puppies, stray cats, small dogs. The men called them bait. They used them to train the fighting dogs to kill. Leo saw Marcus Thorne open the cage. Leo did not think. He just ran. He grabbed the golden retriever and bolted through a gap in the fence. The men chased him for 2 miles into the city center. Eleanor listened in silence. She set her teacup down on a mahogany coaster. She stood up. "Stay by the fire," she ordered. Eleanor walked into her private study. The walls were lined with heavy law books. She picked up a brass desk phone. She did not dial the local police precinct. The local police were too slow. Sometimes they were paid off. She dialed a direct federal line. She called Thomas Miller. He was the director of the FBI's Organized Crime Task Force in New England. 15 years ago, Eleanor Vance signed the wiretap warrants that made his career. Thomas answered on the second ring. "Judge Vance," Thomas said. "Thomas," Eleanor replied. "I have an address in the South Boston shipyard. Illegal animal fighting ring. Interstate theft of domestic animals. Racketeering."
"I'll notify local animal control tomorrow morning," Thomas said. "No," Eleanor said. Her voice cut like a steel blade. "You will not call animal control. You will assemble a tactical team. You will hit that warehouse tonight. If those men are not in federal custody by midnight, I will personally call the Attorney General." Thomas Miller cleared his throat. "Yes, Judge. Consider it done." Eleanor hung up the phone. At 11:30 that night, the South Boston shipyard shook. 3 armored FBI Bearcats smashed through the rusted corrugated steel fence of Marcus Thorne's compound. The heavy diesel engines roared. Brilliant white searchlights cut through the falling snow. Federal agents in heavy Kevlar vests kicked down the steel warehouse doors. They carried short-barreled rifles. They threw flashbang grenades into the center ring. The explosion shattered the windows. Marcus Thorne and Jimmy Corcoran tried to run out the back loading dock. They didn't make it 10 feet. 4 FBI agents tackled them into the freezing mud. The steel handcuffs ratcheted tight around their wrists. Animal rescue teams moved in behind the agents. They brought bolt cutters. They snapped the heavy chains. They rescued 32 fighting dogs and 12 bait animals. Marcus Thorne lay face down in the mud. He looked up at Agent Thomas Miller. "What is this?" Marcus yelled, spitting dirt. "It's just some dogs." Thomas Miller knelt down. He looked at the scar on Marcus's jaw. "You threatened a retired federal judge in a public park, Marcus. You're getting hit with federal racketeering, illegal gambling, and felony animal cruelty. You aren't seeing daylight for 20 years. 6 months passed. The heavy winter snow melted. The dark Victorian house on Beacon Hill was no longer quiet. The front door opened. The golden retriever was now 50 pounds. He bounded down the hallway. His large paws slid on the polished hardwood floors. He crashed into an expensive brass umbrella stand. The umbrellas clattered to the floor. Eleanor Vance did not yell. She did not reach for her silver-tipped cane. She just smiled. She stood in the kitchen. She wore a simple gray sweater. She was making 2 plates of eggs and toast. Leo Bennett walked down the stairs. He wore a clean flannel shirt. His hair was cut. He carried a heavy backpack. He was going to school. Eleanor had officially fostered Leo. She pulled strings. She used the law. She fought the state bureaucracy, and she won. The boy was hers.
Eleanor set a plate on the table. Leo sat down. The dog rested his heavy chin on the boy's knee, begging for toast. Eleanor drank her coffee and watched them.
For 40 years, Eleanor Vance believed a cold, quiet life was a safe life. She thought the law was the only thing that mattered. But as she watched the boy feed a piece of toast to the dog, she finally understood the truth. The law is a shield. It protects you from the monsters. But love is the fire inside the house. Love is the only thing that makes the house worth living in. Some lessons take a lifetime to learn. If this story meant something to you, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about real life, hard justice, and second chances. Share this video with someone who knows the true meaning of family. Thanks for listening.